As I sit down today to do my video this afternoon, there's a little bit of a Christmas in the air. Seasons are changing, and it's kind of appropriate because we are changing direction in our study. We're moving from Galatians, and we're going to look at the statements in the Gospel of John surrounding Jesus' last night with his disciples. And so there's some fascinating things found in there. When I was a teenager, I had a bicycle, like most teenagers did in my day, and everybody rode everywhere. You went to your friends, to school, to the shops, you rode on your bicycle. And I turned my bicycle from a relatively ordinary standard bike into a beautiful look-alike racing bike. It had really great tires on it. It had the 10-speed gears with two in the front and 5 at the back. It had what we used to call mouse straps, where you put your feet in the pedal straps. It was just a really great bike. And I had a friend that we used to ride at quite a lot of places, and one day we're talking together. He said, why don't we ride up the highway a little bit and go for a camping trip? And we rode about 40 kilometers up the road, which is not a long way for bicycle enthusiasts, but it was a long way for us. It took us a couple of hours, and we had a great time. Camped the night. On the way home, we rode headlong into a westerly wind, and it took us about 4 hours to get home. And we got home exhausted, but that added effort just made it more memorable. And we had that sense of achievement. As I think back across my life, I really do notice that most of the things that I remember, most of the events that are meaningful to me, are meaningful because of the relationships in which that event happened. And it's not by surprise that the focus of Jesus in these 13th through 17th chapter of John is his disciples. It's his friends. And we're going to look at that relationship specifically. In the 13th chapter of John, Jesus kneels down, washes his disciples' feet, and says, I'm doing this because I love you. And then as that 13th chapter comes to an end, he makes this statement, which is profoundly significant, in the 35th verse of John. By this will all men know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. It's really, really important for us to recognize that what proves that we are followers of Christ is not our grasp of theology. It's not the things that we know, the arguments that we can make, the way that we can convince people against their will, but the fact that we can love each other with a love that is reflective of the love Christ has for us. And it's really worth pausing and thinking and asking ourselves the question, would somebody recognize me as a disciple of Jesus because of the way that I love fellow believers? That's a bit of a challenge, and something that really ought to cause us to pause and think about the way we relate to each other. Well, over the next few weeks, we're going to be looking at the dynamic of love as Jesus sends his disciples off into their future that will happen after he is gone.